Shut up and sit down.
Right, here we go. Range Rover that's set fire in Luton Airport. Here's the picture of the front. In this next sequence of pictures, if you stop the video in this sort of area, you can read that number plate, E10 EFL. It's perfectly legible when you read it. There it is, perfect. Range Rover Sport. It's a 3 litre 2993cc and it's a diesel, as you can read there. Date of registration, May 2014, manufactured 2014. It's definitely a diesel. It's not a hybrid and it's not an EV. I'll show you a picture next of a Range Rover. And take note of the rear lights. The rear lights are important in this. See how they come down, all the way down to the bumper. Next picture, just have a look at the rear lights in the one that's on fire. They don't come down to the bumper. You can see them lit up very, very well on the driver's side. Here's a picture of a Range Rover Sport. You can see where the lights are. Another picture of the back of it on fire. That's the comparison back to Range Rover Sport that isn't on fire. Just happens to be the same colour. Here's another screenshot of all the information on the vehicle. And there's the Range Rover again, just to give you an idea. I want you to look at the MOT. The last MOT this vehicle passed. There's some information there that's going to come into play when I tell you why I think, or one of my theories as to why this Range Rover Sport 3 litre V6 diesel could have possibly self-ignited. Have a look at the monitor and repair if necessary, the advisories on the MOT. Front brake pads wearing thin. That's the one I want you to look at. Front brake disc worn, pitted or scored, but not seriously weakened. Okay, we won't worry so much about the disc, but the front brake pads wearing thin. That's important to what I'm going to say later in the video, when I give you my theories as to why, or possibly the fire was started on the passenger side front. Right, what we're looking at in this segment of the video is a 3 litre V6 turbo diesel as fitted to a Range Rover Sport. This is video taken from under a Range Rover Sport bonnet. And this just gives you some idea to the layout of the engine. We've got suspension strut there, aluminium. Yeah, it's a cast aluminium. What you've got there, what you're looking at now, is the fuel cooler. That's what cools the fuel. To the right of that is the AdBlue reservoir. We're looking at the back of the engine now on passenger side, and you can see the turbocharger right by the bell housing, tucked right at the bottom of the engine. Flywheel to the right, work your way round. There you go. See that triangle section there? That's where the exhaust bolts to the turbo, or the DPF would bolt to the turbo. That's where the turbo is on one of these engines, tucked right down. There's another view of it. That's where the turbo hides. This is looking, again, that's the airbox, front suspension strut, and you can see how crammed and packed everything is in this engine. That's a look at the fuel injectors on one of these engines. AdBlue and fuel cooler again. That's the fuel filter. Just work across the engine now. Windscreen washer, brake fluid reservoir. There's fuse boxes rammed in there, there's computers rammed in there. The battery is actually in the boot of one of them. More electronics rammed underneath. You can see wiring all over the place. It's a very, very compact engine bay. Oh, what I'm running through in this part of the video is I went through all the recalls on the year range of this particular Range Rover Sport, and I went 1 year either side, so I went 2013 to 2015, because this is a 2014 vehicle that's gone on fire. As you can see, fire may occur. And if you read the bottom line, significant damage, there is a possibility of fire. And then the vehicle we're looking at, Range Rover Sport, falls into the VIN numbers that were shown in that last screen. I'm going to go for another one of the recalls now. Up it pops. 2015 038. Recall type. Oh, reason for concern, fire may occur. Again, we're in the same year range. Same chassis numbers in the build date of this vehicle that's gone on fire. Let's see what the next one pops up as. Another recall. Risk of fire. An internal fault can create a short circuit within the fan control module. Once again, we're a little bit outside the VIN numbers on this one, but it just shows you Land Rover have had a problem with electronics and electrical components for a long time. And there's lots of recalls there that say risk of fire. Here's a good one. Recall date 11th of the 10th, 2014. Reason for recall, internal fault can create a short circuit within the fan control module. The important bit is this may happen with the engine switched off and possibly when the vehicle is unattended. That's another risk of fire. These are all faults that could possibly have affected this particular Range Rover Sport. I've got no access to the Land Rover and the Jaguar system. So what I can't do is check the actual data off Land Rover and Jaguar to see if these recalls have ever been performed. But even if they have, they could still be a reoccurring problem in the future. But as you can see from the recalls, how many of them were risk of fire, risk of fire, risk of fire, and they're all individual recalls on this particular range of Range Rover Sports with the 3 litre TDI V6 diesel engine in. Well, if you've got this far in the video, you've watched 9.5 minutes of me talking about Range Rover Sport 3 litre TDI 2014 that allegedly started the fire in Luton Airport. In the next part of the video, I'm going to sum up and put my theories with all the evidence I've just presented you and a little bit more as to why and how and maybe the possible causes this Range Rover Sport set itself on fire and caused so much devastation. So sit, watch, listen, and I'll explain in the next bit my theories and the possible reasons why this happened. Right, first theory is front brake pads wearing thin. We know what happens when brakes get very, very hot. They get very, very hot. And when brakes are very, very hot, they can set themselves on fire. Right, what I mean by brakes being so hot and setting themselves on fire is dead simple. You've got really, really thin brake pads that have got no material left on them, so they can't dissipate the heat. You have one massive, massive stop on off a motorway, up a slip road, and then you go diving into a car park. You've put an immense amount of heat into them brakes, maybe overheated them because they're thin, they can't dissipate the heat properly. As you've slowed down, they've got no cooling ability. They can set themselves on fire. You've seen what happens to Formula 1 cars or any competition car when it comes hammering into the pits for a tyre change. You've seen them putting brakes out with fire extinguishers. The same can happen on an everyday car. Right, my next theory is a DPF filter fault. A DPF filter captures the soot that a diesel engine generates, and it stops the soot from entering the atmosphere. It keeps it in a filter. That's what it's called, diesel particulate filter. Now, these filters can only hold so much soot. And there are two ways of cleaning these filters. One is called passive regeneration, and it can take anywhere between half an hour to an hour on a run at a sustained speed on a motorway or on a road to clean the filter. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. So there is another system in place called active regeneration. Now, this is the dangerous regeneration. Active regeneration means fuel is injected automatically by the vehicle's ECU, the electronic control unit, when the filter reaches a predetermined limit, and it's normally between 45 and 60% soot accumulation. And what it does, the fuel raises the temperature of the DPF filter to burn off the stored soot. Now then, problems can occur when this happens. If you have just been driving your car, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you've done a bit of fast motorway work or a bit of fast A-road work, and the car goes, right, this is the time for me to do an active regeneration. So it goes into regen. It dumps a load of fuel into the DPF filter, and all of a sudden you turn off the motorway. You go and park in a car park, or a multi-storey car park, maybe at Luton Airport, I don't know. Maybe you drive a Range Rover Sport and you go and park your Range Rover Sport in Luton car park at the airport. But your car's entered an active regen. You've now got a diesel particulate filter that is running at probably 700 to 800 degrees Celsius. But you're not now moving down the motorway at speed with an airflow across the DPF filter. You've gone from running at 70 miles an hour to running at 10 miles an hour. The car's still actively regenerating. It hasn't shut the regen down. That filter is immensely hot. The possibility is that filter gets so hot, anything close to it that is combustible could be set on fire. That's just theory number 2. DPF filters. Right, I've done 2 of the theories so far. We've done brakes overheating, setting the car on fire. DPF overheating, setting the car on fire. The next 3 are all to do with recalls on the car. And every single one of them is an electrical fault. And every single one of them is a recall with a fire may occur or a fire risk. So we're up to 5 now possible reasons a Land Rover, Range Rover, let's get it correct, it's a Range Rover, it's not a Land Rover, it's not a cheapskate. A Land Rover is a cheapskate. It's a luxury SUV, it's a Land Rover that you've overpaid for unreliability, risk of fire. Yep, that's what you're paying for, unreliability. You've got 3 recalls there that I'm showing on the screen, and every one of them is risk of fire. You can't deny every one of them recalls is a dangerous recall. Do you want to be driving vehicles with recalls like that? I don't. That's 3 more possibilities. I have 2 more theories as possibilities for a Range Rover Sport TD V6 3 litre, possibly spontaneously combusting. One is an oil leak, be it at a turbo, spraying pressurised oil onto a hot turbo, igniting the engine oil, or a leak at the engine oil cooler, spraying hot oil onto a hot exhaust stroke hot turbo. Engine oil will, when it comes into contact with a hot exhaust or a hot turbo, burst into flames. Now, these V6 diesel engines that Land Rover produce have another problem. And you can check this on YouTube, you can check this on Google, and the channel to go and check is actually a channel called LR, which is Lima Romeo Time. And they've documented the problem with these V6 diesel engines. They actually snap crankshafts. If you're lucky, the crankshaft will snap and the engine will just come to a halt and it won't do any internal damage. But the crankshaft can snap, and what was now an internal component could become an external component, opening an inspection hole in the side of an engine, putting very hot engine components and very, very hot engine oil onto very, very hot turbochargers and exhaust components, and again igniting a car. So there's another two problems that can happen with Range Rovers, Land Rovers, anything with the V6 3 litre turbo diesel in it. So what have we found out in this video? We've discovered what the vehicle was that potentially set on fire at Luton Airport. Range Rover Sport 3 litre turbo diesel. So we know it's a diesel. It's not a hybrid and it's not an EV. Okay, it was 2014 manufactured, 2014 registered. And we've gone through all the possibilities of what can set one of these vehicles on fire. We've looked at brakes, DPF filter, we've looked at 3 recalls with the possibility of fire, we've looked at oil leaks, and we've also looked at the possibility of a crankshaft snapping and exiting an engine block and spraying hot engine oil over components. So there's lots and lots of reasons why this vehicle could have spontaneously combusted. Which one of them reasons it is, I don't know. You don't know. But the main thing is, we know what the vehicle was. We know its identification, we know its number plate, we know its year of manufacture, and we know the possible faults that could have occurred on the vehicle. Right, I'm closing the video off here. I think we've done enough research and I don't think I can do any more on this particular subject. It's what it is, it's happened. I feel very, very sorry for all the people that have lost vehicles in the fire. It's devastating for people to think they're on holiday at the moment, they're due into Luton Airport, and their car's in that car park. How are they getting home? Can you imagine the insurance bill that if it's proven to be this Range Rover that set everything on fire? Can you imagine the insurance bill that the insurance company has got to lay out? It's not just, what, 1,200 cars that they've got to pay out for? It's an entire building. It's a phenomenal amount of money. I would not like to be the owners of said vehicle in the future trying to insure a vehicle. They are going to get absolutely nailed for the insurance. Anyhow, that's enough of Luton Airport's airport fire. Thank you very, very much for watching. I really, really want to hear your comments on this video, your thoughts, your theories on what caused this fire. And yeah, I'm gonna be watching the comments. I'm gonna be watching the reaction to the video. Admittedly, it's been a long video, but it needed to be a long video to go through all the little idiosyncrasies and all the problems, the possible problems that could have caused this issue. But it's done now, it's over. The car park's flat, all the cars have been destroyed. Luckily, and I will say luckily, nobody was killed to our knowledge. Nobody was injured to our knowledge. That is a godsend. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something. Please consider liking the video. Please consider subscribing to the channel. And keep a lookout for up-and-coming videos. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.